Many of you are already familiar with the TTM Squeeze indicator. Now, I've had a lot of requests for this indicator recently, so I figured it would make a good video to learn how to actually code this ourselves. So in this video, we're going to build a TTM Squeeze indicator from scratch using C# on NinjaTrader. And for this indicator, we're going to achieve three main parts. The first one is obviously we're going to build an entire functioning indicator. This is going to be free and open source, available to everyone. You can download this on my website at TradeSaber.com or on Discord. All the links are going to be down below. The second part is going to focus on automating this indicator using the Predator X order entry. For those who are new here or might just not know about it, the Predator X order entry is an order entry and management system for NinjaTrader that helps us easily manage a bunch of different trading styles. It has a bunch of built-in order entry features, and we can even automate certain third-party signals as well. Now, you don't need the Predator to use this signal, but it will make it a lot easier if you plan to automate this. And the last part is also focusing on automation, but we're going to build this indicator in a way that lets us use it with NinjaTrader Strategy Builder. This again is going to give us a bunch of options to help us automate this indicator. Strategy Builder is going to take quite a bit more work to automate, but we will at least have that option with this indicator. But this is going to be a bit of a longer video, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. Let's get right into it. All right, before we start building anything, let's go over what the TTM Squeeze actually is. Here I have the final product loaded just so we can see how it actually works. All it is it's identifying a period of consolidation, that is these gray dots down here. And then when we finally start breaking out, that is when we enter our trade. And that is what these orange dots represent. Now, how do we actually identify these periods? Well, we use two indicators. The first indicator that we use is the Bollinger Band indicator. And for this one, I like to do a period of 21. So let's put that on the chart. And then the next indicator that we use for this is the Keltner channel. And for the Keltner channel, I'm also doing a offset multiplier of 2. And a period of 21. So the theory behind this indicator is when the Bollinger Bands, that's the yellow one, are inside the Keltner channel, that is when we have a period of consolidation. Again, that's the gray dots. We can see the yellow is within the blue Keltner channel. So we are in a consolidation period. And then when the Bollinger breaks out of the Keltner channel, that is when we get the orange dot. That is when we get our trigger to enter the trade. So all we're really looking to do is get into that period where the price is consolidating and then just enter at the breakout. Now, the histogram down here, those are your green and your red bars. They are based on the momentum indicator. And for this one, I use a period of 14. And this is what it normally looks like. We're going to smooth it out and make it look a lot better during this video. But basically all that this is telling us is when we have a Bollinger breakout from the Keltner and your momentum is below the 0 line, that calls for a short trade. And if we have a breakout and the momentum is above 0, that is calling for a long trade. Now, there are a bunch of different ways this indicator has been coded. It's been heavily modified by a lot of different users. But for this video, I want to try and keep it as simple as possible. But now that we understand how this indicator works, let's actually move on to the coding. All right, let's get right into the code. To open up your NinjaScript editor, just go to your control panel, select new NinjaScript editor. And this will come up. From here, I'm going to put it into the folder that I want. You can just also select the little plus mark down here, but I'm going to go into my TradeSaber folder. I'm going to right click and go to new indicator. You don't have to do this. You can put it any folder you want, but this is what I'm doing. From here, I'm going to select next, and we're going to type in the name that we want. I'm going to call it the TTM Squeeze. Let's do the TradeSaber version. And I'm going to select next. On this page is your calculate method. We are going to keep it on bar close That just means it's only going to calculate once anytime the bar closes. This should be plenty good enough for this indicator. And for the overlay on price, I'm going to keep it unchecked because I want it in a different window. Now for the next stuff, I'm just going to type in all of this manually. We don't really need to do anything there. So I'm just going to finish, and it's going to create our indicator template. Now I'm just going to hide that. I'm just moving these over a little bit so we can see the script editor a little bit better. There we go. All right, the first thing I like to do with these indicators is create our plots. The plots are very important. It's what's going to help keep track of data and what's going to let us use it on Strategy Builder as well. So how we add a plot, we just go to add plot. You want to do a new stroke. And here you want to define the color. I'm just going to do brushes.gray. This is just going to set the default color to gray. And we also want to define the width of this plot. So most of them are a width of 2. So you can see that down here you have your brush and the size of the plot. Then from here, we're just going to define the style of the plot. So we do that by saying plot style dot, and we're going to start off with the histogram first. So I want to create a bar. Then we just need to give it a name. So I'm just going to say momentum. And guys, if you don't know where to find this kind of information, just go to the NinjaTrader help guide. You're going to find a lot of examples for any NinjaScript related content. So for example, here we just have the add plot example. But once we have our plot, we have to define the public series as well. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to bring it down under the on bar update. And I'm going to paste it right in here. Now, the only thing we need to change is the momentum. I'm just going to put that right in here. And that is how we define our plot. Now, we just need to do the same thing for the 0 line. That is the dots that are going to change color. And then we just need a third one, and that is going to keep track of our signal that is going to be usable for Strategy Builder. So I'm just going to copy this. Now, this second one is going to be a dot. So we're just going to change the plot style. And we will call this one the squeeze. And then we need a third one. This one is also going to be a dot. And this one is just going to be used for our Strategy Builder. And I want to make sure this one is hidden. I don't want to show this anywhere. So I'm going to change the brush to transparent. Then it's just going to hide it a little bit, so it's not really visible on the chart, but we will use this value later on. And we also need to define the public series for all of these as well. So I'm just going to copy this, paste, and paste. Now remember, for your plots, they start at 0. So this will be 0, this will be 1, and this bottom one will be 2. So we just need to change the numbers, the match, the order the plots are defined up here. So for example, this second one, we will change the name to squeeze, and the value is 1. The third one, we need to again take the name, change this to the name, and our value is 2. So 0, 2. So again, 0, 1, 2. 0, 1, 2. And that is how we define these plots. Now, let's create our histogram. So I'm going to go onto our bar update. And I usually like to start off all indicators by saying if current bar is less than 2, then we are going to return. That just means if we have less than 2 bars on the chart, I don't want to make any calculations because it'll likely set off some sort of an error. So just return the script, wait until we have more bars loaded. And I'm just going to change something so we don't get confused later on. So we know the difference between the plot and the actual indicator that we're using. So I'm just going to change our plot name to momentum TS, again in the plot and in the public series at the bottom. But let's build our histogram now. So I'm going to say momentum TS, that is our plot value. And I'm going to say add 0, that is the most current closed value. So because we are on bar close, bar 0 will be the most current fully closed bar. So this one will be bar 0. And I'm going to say is equals to, and now we're going to define the indicator itself. So the momentum indicator. So I'm just going to show one example first, and then I'll show how to smooth out the momentum indicator. So we're going to go close the period of 14. And we want to say, again, it is the one at the most current closed price. So I'm just going to hit compile and see how this loads on the chart. Once that's done, let's load it up. So right click on the chart, go to indicators, TradeSaber, or wherever you put this indicator. And we're going to select the TTM Squeeze TradeSaber. And guys, actually, I'll make a note about this on the video, but if you're following along, I do recommend using a different name in case you want to load this indicator later. That way it's not conflicting with your own indicator. But I'm just going to load it up and let's zoom out a bit. This is what our plot looks like now. So as you can see, it's kind of sharp, doesn't really look nice. There's no other colors to it. So let's fix that up a little bit. So in order to make this look a little bit better, I'm going to use the EMA indicator, and that's going to make it a little bit smoother, a little bit nicer to look at. So I'm just going to make some user customizable options so the user can easily modify this indicator directly from the properties. And that way anybody can define this however they want. So I'm going to say momentum period is equals to 14. Then I'm going to say momentum EMA period. This one we will also be equals to 14. Now we just again have to define the public variable. So let's just go down here under the plots. And actually, I'm just going to hide this region plots just so they're out of the way a little bit. And I'm going to type in our variable properties in here. And then I'm just going to copy and change this one to our EMA period. Momentum EMA period. Change this to 2. Now we can use these same variables inside our momentum. I'm just going to type in EMA. We have to define the EMA period. So I'm going to take this variable, type that out in here. And for the momentum period, that is the one after the little comma here, we can just change that to the other variable, the momentum period. So all we're saying here is our momentum plot, that is momentum TS, is equal to the momentum indicator, that's the one built into NinjaTrader. It has an input of an EMA with a 14 period, that is this right here. And the momentum indicator itself also has a period of 14 that is defined by right here. So let's just hit compile. And I'm going to click on our chart and hit F5. So as you can see, it does look quite a bit better now. Now we just need to add the coloring to make it look even nicer. All right, so now that we have this defined, let's add in our color. So all the coloring does is if it's increasing and it's above 0, we're going to do a dark green. If it's decreasing but still above 0, it's getting weaker, we're going to do a light green. If it's decreasing but we're below 0, it's going to be a dark red. If it's increasing but below 0, it's getting weaker, we're doing a light red or just a regular red. So how we do that? We say if momentum TS 0 is greater than 0 and momentum TS 0 is greater than momentum TS 1, that is 1 bar ago. So that means if the most current value, that is the one we defined up here, is greater than the value 1 bar ago, then we can color in our indicator. So plot brushes. So we are doing 0 and 0. What this first number means is it's just referring to the plot being used. So plot 0, plot 1, plot 2. So right now, because we're still dealing with the momentum TS plot, we're going to say plot brushes 0. This one is the bar being used. So again, plot 0, bar 0. And we're going to say this one is equals to brushes dot, let's say, dark green. And I'm just going to copy this same code, go down one line, and I'm going to change this to else if momentum TS is greater than 0, but the momentum of the current bar is less than the momentum of the previous bar, then we are going to change this to light green. Now I'm just going to copy this once again. I'm going to go down 2, and I'm going to change the momentum if it is less than 0, and the momentum TS of the current bar is less than the momentum of the previous bar, then that is a strong signal. So I want to say dark red. And I'm going to change the second one. If the momentum is less than 0, but it's going up, so that means it's getting a little bit weaker, we are going to change this to red. There's no light red option on this, so that is the lightest color we can do. So let's just hit compile and see how that works. Once it's done, I'm going to click on the chart, click F5, and now we can see our momentum indicator is working just fine. Once it's decreasing and it's below 0, dark red, increasing below 0, the lighter red, increasing above 0, dark green, decreasing above 0, light green. Now, if you want to define these colors yourself, maybe you don't like green, maybe you don't like red, and you want to define them inside the properties, let me show you how to do that. So again, we're going to go down to our default settings, and we're going to define a few brushes. So what I'm going to say, mom long strong color is equals to brushes dot dark green, momentum long weak color is equals to brushes dot light green. And I'm doing the same for the shorts as well. So mom short strong color. Let's make sure we have all of these typed in properly. This one will be equals to brushes dot dark red. And mom short weak color. That one is equals to brushes dot red. When we define them up here, again, we got to make the public brush as well. So again, guys, go to the help guide. There are plenty of examples in there. you can just copy and paste the code so you don't have to type out all of this. So I'm just going to type all of these out. So I'm just going to copy one, and I'm going to use it for the other ones as well. So once I paste it, I'm just going to highlight it, Control F. I'm going to change strong, quick replace, make sure you select the selection option. And I'm going to change that to weak, replace all. And I'm going to do the same for the other ones as well. I'm just going to copy all of this, paste it down here, select all of this. I'm going to change the long to a short. And then we just need to change the order number. So 9, 10, and 11. Once we define all of these, let's go back up to our plot brushes, and we just gotta swap out these brushes with our newly defined variables. So strong color, that is where the dark green goes. Weak color, again, where the light green goes. And we swap the short ones as well. So once we change all of those, let's click on the compile button. And again, let's verify our work. I'm going to first click on the chart, F5, make sure nothing changes. There's nothing too drastic over there. And let's go into our properties. And now you can see we have our parameters defined up here. So if we were to change this to yellow, that would change this to orange, red, whatever you want. It should change color now. So we verified that works. I'm just going to reset everything. And I'm going to change the parameter names so it does have the 1, and then these will be in the same section. Otherwise, we're moving on. So if you want them all to match up, again, just make sure the group name is the exact same on all of them. And let's just verify that again quickly. And now they are all in the same parameter section. All right, now that we have our histogram ready, let's plot the dots that tell us when the Bollinger Bands break over or under the Keltner channel. And how I like to do this, let's make this smaller. And I'm just going to load up the indicators first, so that way we have a visual of when our signal is supposed to trigger. So let's scroll down to the Bollinger Bands. And I'm going to type in a period of 21 with the deviation of 2. And these are important. We're going to use these in our own indicator as well. So let's just hit apply. And let's head down to the Keltner channel as well. And for this one, I also like to do an offset of 2 with a period of 21. So remember, multiplier and period. We'll be able to adjust these within our own indicator. All right, so once we have these loaded on the chart, let's go back into our code and let's define these. So the first thing that we need to do is we need variables that are going to let us adjust the Keltner and the Bollinger Bands. That will make it a lot easier for the user to just go into the properties and adjust their settings through this indicator. So let's come back up here to your default properties. And I'm just going to the top up here. Let's do the Bollinger Bands first. So Bollinger deviation. We're going to set this to a value of 2. And again, guys, this could be whatever you want. This is just what I like to use. And you also need the Bollinger period. And this is going to be a value of 21. Next, you need your Keltner multiplier. and this one a value of 2, and the Keltner period, again a value of 21. Once we have those, don't forget to add the public variable down here as well. So for that one, I'm just going to copy this one, and I want to actually set them at the top. So I'm just going to paste this in here, and I'm going to call this one Bollinger deviation. And I'm just going to come back up here. I'm going to copy our Bollinger deviation, and I'm going to paste it over this variable, and I'm going to change the integer into a double because the deviation can use decimals. So just change those to a double, and we're going to add a couple more spaces. Again, I'm going to take this and I'm going to change this to the Bollinger period now. So just copy this variable and change this to the period. And we will change the name as well. And change this to order number 2. The period, we leave that as an integer because there are no decimals. Once we have that, let's copy both of those. And we're going to change the new ones into the Keltner. So Keltner multiplier. And we just change both of these. Add a space there if you want. And make the order number 3. And scroll back up. Again, the Keltner period this time. And we are changing the last one. And that one does remain as an integer. All right, so we defined our variables. Now we need something that's going to keep track of the upper and lower bands for both the Bollinger and the Keltner channels. Because these ones are not going to be changed by the user. This is just going to be a container that stores the value. I'm going to scroll up here under the public class, add a couple spaces in there, and I'm going to add a private variable. So private double, and I'm just going to call it bolu. And I'm going to be able to use this variable down the road when we actually need it. And I just need to do the exact same thing for the upper and lower bands. So private double, kelt u, private double, kelt l. And for these, because they're private, we do not need to add any public properties. Again, these are not going to be customizable by the user. They're just containers that we're going to need later on. So let's scroll down to our on-bar update, and we're going to define our variables. So the first thing that we need is bolu is going to be equals to Bollinger. That's the indicator within NinjaTrader itself. And again, we're just taking this from the NinjaTrader help guide. The first number is going to be your deviation. The second is going to be your period. So what we need to do is just take the variable that we define for the deviation. We are going to put that right in there. Add a comma. And we're going to take your Bollinger period. And make sure you spell Bollinger correctly. And it matches down here, so you do not run into issues down the road. But moving on, we will add that variable into our period location, and we are going to add a period and define this as the upper band. And we're going to add the 0, that is the most current bar that has already closed. So in this example, it would be this bar. Now we're just going to copy this, add a space, and define our Bollinger lower band. So same thing, Bollinger, our deviation, our period. We're going to come down over here and we will select lower. Now we do the same, but for the Keltner channel. So Kelt U is equals to Keltner channel. And again, we have our Keltner multiplier, comma, Keltner period, period upper, and we want the most current candle, most current closed candle. And we're just going to copy and paste that down here. Change this to an L, change this to a lower, and now we have variables defining our Bollinger and Keltner upper and lower channels. Now, whenever we have a breakout, we are just going to change the value of our squeeze plot. This is going to be the middle dots here at line 0. And these are just going to change color whenever we have a trigger. So I'm just going to define that as well. So our squeeze 0, that is this name right here, that is going to be equals to 0. That is simple enough. Now let's actually start defining our indicator. So I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to add some space. All right, let's start off with our long entries. So we will say if Bol U, that's the upper Bollinger Band, if it goes above Kelt U, and we also want to make sure our momentum is above 0 and trending up. So we will say and momentum TS 0 is greater than 0. Once these conditions are met, now we're going to take the same plot brushes, but this time instead of plot brushes 0, we are working with our second plot. So with coding, that is going to be plot 1. So plot 1 and the bar 0 is equals to brushes dot dark orange, or really any color that you want. Let's actually define that right now. So I'm just going to come back up here. I'm going to say breakout color is equals to brushes dot dark orange. And then that way the user can define it within the properties. So let's come back down here. So I'm just going to take this momentum long strong. I'm going to add a bit of space and I will change everything in this one. So breakout color. So I'm just going to, so anything that says momentum long strong, just swap it out with our new variable. And let's change the name of this as well. Breakout color. And change the order number. All right. So now instead of saying plot brushes is equals to dark orange, we can just give it that variable and the user can customize this within the properties. All right, so now that we have the longs, let's do the same, but for the shorts. So else if, I'm just going to copy all of this, paste it right in there. And I'm going to say if the Bollinger lower is less than the Keltner lower, and the momentum is less than 0, then I'm also going to color the plot into our breakout color. So let's just enable that, make sure everything is functioning, and we're going to start complicating things just a little bit, and they'll just make it function a little bit better. But let's see what this is going on. Balling period, that's what I was talking about earlier. Make sure everything is spelled properly, or else it's not going to work. So again, let's hit compile. And I'm going to push F5. If we take a look down at our histogram, you can see some gray dots and some orange dots. So let's look at the Bollinger Band. That's the yellow one, or gold, I guess. Once it breaks above our blue Keltner channel, it will be right about this point. We can see our dot turns orange. So our long seems to work. And then if we go to the other side, where our Bollinger escaped the Keltner, so right about here, oh, that's the lower one, so right about here, and our momentum is below 0, that is valid for a short entry. So we just keep going. It seems to be working pretty okay. We turn orange when we break out, turn gray when both the Bollingers are inside the Keltner. Everything seems to be okay. Now let's complicate this a little bit more and add a lot more functionality. All right, this next section, we're going to add signals so that we can automate this indicator using the Predator X order entry. And at the same time, we're also going to update the builder signals so that those that want to use this with Strategy Builder have the ability to do so. The main thing that we need to focus on is I just want to create one signal anytime the dots turn orange. I don't want to have a different signal on each separate dot. Just as soon as it goes from gray to orange, that's my one signal that I want. So I'm going to go up to my private variables, and I'm just going to make a Boolean that's going to basically act as an on and off switch that will trigger my signal once and then not trigger again until the next time it turns orange. So it'll make a little more sense when I show an example. But for now, I'm just going to say private bool, and I'm going to say signal once entry. And I'm going to define this as false. This just means when we first enable it, it's going to be at false, but our indicator is going to control it so we can achieve what we need. The next thing that we need, I'm just going to add some strings, and these are going to hold the tag value that is going to be used with the predator. So I'm just going to go somewhere in here. So I'm going to call this one my long entry, and this is going to be the signal, and I'll name this one, that could be the same thing, long entry. So this is the text that we're going to type into the predator, and this is going to let us automate this indicator. So short entry equals short entry. And for those that do not want to see these signals on the chart, we'll give the user that option as well. So show entry signal. And I'm just going to make this false as default. That way, only users that are using the predator can know to turn this on, and then we can automate this indicator. But like any default setting, let's define the public variable down here as well. So I'm just going to come down here to the bottom, make a little bit of space. And we're just going to type out the show entry predator X signals. And we just added a description so users can know these are to be used with the predator X order entry. The group name is predator signals. And my goal, show entry signals, that is this one. And again, make sure signal and signals to type in the correct wording or else it's not going to work. And short entry, that is one word, not two words. All right, so once we have that, let's add in our strings. And jumping into the future, I just added in our strings. So our long entry, short entry, it's a public string. And again, we just set the order number. So once we have these defined, let's scroll back up to our on-bar update. And we're going to add a little bit more code to define our signals. So for our longs, I'm going to go under our plot brushes and I'm going to add a new if statement. So if signal once entry is false, that's what this exclamation mark does, is just if this statement is false, then we will execute the following. Now, if this is a false statement, we're going to say our builder signal on our most current bar, that is this plot up here, this is going to be equals to 1. This is going to give us a functioning signal that we can use with Strategy Builder. Once we have our signal, that is our +1, we're going to take this bool and we're going to turn it true. This is going to make sure this only gets triggered once. So when this first turns orange, again, for the very first time, our bool is false. Once we take that orange, it is going to turn true. We will have to turn this back to false so we can get another signal at a later time. And I will show you how to do that in just a minute, but let me finish this one up first. In this same if statement, this is also when we want to create our signals that the predator can use. So I'm going to say if we have show entry signals, then we are going to draw dot arrow up. And again, this is all within the NinjaTrader help guide if you need to know how to type this out. So we will just say this. Then we need to define our tag. So that is our long entry. This again is this string that we defined up here. We're just typing this in. So our long entry, and we need to add the current bar. This is going to give it a different tag for each time this signal is shown on the chart. So then we have to do is it auto scale true, and then bars ago, it is going to get set to 0. And then the double Y, that is the Y axis. So where do we want to set this? I want to set it at the low of the most current candle. And I'm going to set it to 1 tick size away from there. Next, I'm just going to define the color. Again, you can make variables for the colors of the signals as well. They're not as important for me on this one. You guys can add that if you want. You guys can modify this indicator. This video is already getting pretty long, so I kind of want to save time. But I'm just going to leave it like that. Next, I'm going to do the same, but for the shorts. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste this down here. Now, for the shorts, I like to do a value of -1. And for the shorts, I'm just going to change it to a down arrow instead. So down arrow, short entry current bar. This one, it's a down arrow, so I'm going to set it at the high of the candle. And I'm going to change it to a Dodger blue or whatever color you want. Now that we have that, I'm going to reset our signal once entry bool back to false once it turns back to gray. So how we do that, I'm just going to do another else if statement. So I'm just going to take my Bollinger upper and Keltner upper. So once the Bollinger upper is less than the Keltner upper, and I'm just going to copy, paste this. And once the Bollinger lower is greater than the Keltner lower, that means both your upper and lower Bollinger are within the upper and lower Keltner, then we are going to take our signal once entry and we are going to turn this back to false. This is going to reset it and let us trigger another signal the next time it turns orange. And there is no such thing as an else statement with a definition. It's going to be an else if. So let's hit compile, see how that works. Let's just hit F5 on the chart. Everything looks the same, but let's go into the properties. We are going to come down here to the predator signals. I'm going to enable the option, and that should show us our signals. So we have our long signal here. Let me just expand this so we can see it a little bit better. So when it is gray, we have nothing. As soon as it turns orange, to the short side, we have a short signal. And then if we follow, once it turns gray, and then we get another break to the upside, we get another long entry arrow. Then again, it turns gray. Our momentum is back down to 0. We break below, and we get our short entry. Now, what about our strategy builder signals? Let's just open up the data box and scroll to where it says we do not have the plot value. Let's fix that really quick so we can see what we're working with before we move on. So all I want to do is show transparent plot in data box and set this to true. And I'm not making this name up. This is, again, all in the help guide. You can see show transparent plots in data box. I think this should have an S. But let's hit compile. Once that's compiled, we'll see down here it should appear. There we go. Now we can see our builder signal that's normally transparent, so we do not actually see the plot. But the value, when we go over it, you'll see for a short, it is -1. Anytime there's no signal, it's NA or 0. Once we go over our long, we have a value of +1. This is going to allow us to use this in Strategy Builder and automate it that way as well, if that's what we want to do. Now, everything seems to be working pretty well. When it turns orange, we have our signal. So let me just verify everything seems to be pretty okay. And here we find there could be a problem where we can get a false entry signal. So here we got a long entry signal as the momentum is coming down. This is usually not a good time to enter a long when the momentum is coming down. So let's go back into our code and see if we can fix that and make this indicator function a little bit better. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to make sure we are only entering long if the momentum is increasing. We only want to enter short if the momentum is going down. So that way, if we get a scenario like this, where we're still above 0, but the momentum is going down, we can avoid getting into trades that are going completely against us. So I'm going to go to my code and I'm going to add a few more statements. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure we are only changing the color of our plot when we do not have an entry yet. So only if there's no sort of entry, we are going to create one entry. And we want to make sure that our momentum, our most current closed candle, that's momentum 0, is greater than the momentum of the previous bar. So the one immediately to the left. But we also want to make sure that once we get that first signal triggered, we just keep coloring the plot value orange until both the upper and lower Bollingers are back inside the Keltner. So I'm just going to say or signal once entry. This just means if this is a true statement. And don't forget to add a bracket to both of these because you want this piece of the code to execute. And as a step 2 of the code, you want either this or this to execute. So I'm just going to copy this part of the code. And I'm going to come back to our short side. And I'm going to paste in the exact same, except I just want my momentum to be going down when we're going short. Once we have that, let's just hit compile, see if that fixes our problem. So I'm going to hit F5. And now we no longer have that long signal on the way down. So as you can see, we are gray, gray, gray till we get a long signal. It's a loser is what it is. And then we don't get another signal until a short signal down here. When the momentum is going down, it's below 0 and our Bollinger Band broke below the Keltner. So again, that stays orange until both the Bollingers are inside the Keltner. And then we get one long signal over here. And that seems to be exactly what we needed for this indicator. Now, I know this video is getting long, but before we finish up, let's go over the exit signals. With this TTM squeeze, one of the main reasons for this momentum indicator is to provide not only an entry signal, but also the exit. The theory is once we start losing momentum, so for example, if we're long, once it starts decreasing, that is our signal to start getting out. It's the opposite for shorts. Once we start increasing, that is our signal to exit our short position. Now, this might not be for everybody. I usually recommend taking a few partials along the way to ensure you have some profits, but this could be a good way to define a final exit price. And if you have a small part left over, you could potentially catch a much bigger move. So because with the Predator, you're able to define an exit signal and have it automatically close out your trade, I'm just going to add that exit signal for those that want to have it. So let's go back into our code. And I'm actually going to make up here another bool, private bool, signal once exit equals false. And go back to our main indicator in the on-bar update. And I want to execute this code only after we get our initial entry signal. So I'm going to come down here, make an else if statement. So if we are in a current long entry, so this Boolean did turn true, and our signal once exit, if this one is still false, so our exit has not executed, and our momentum TS0 is less than momentum from 1 bar ago. So that means we are in a long position and the momentum is on its way down. I'm going to create another condition. I'm going to say my builder signal. This one, for my exit condition, I'm just going to assign a value of 2. So again, this is one you can use on Strategy Builder if you want to exit your trades out that way. My signal once exit, this is now going to turn true. And I forgot to define our exit signal variables. So let me just copy this really quick. I'm going to highlight all of these, Control F, type in entry, exit, make sure you have selection, and I'm going to change all of these. Let's go back down to our entry signal properties. Again, we're going to copy all of these, paste them in here, and we're going to highlight them and replace all of it. Make sure we change the order number. So 3, 4, and 5. All right, let's go back up and finish our code. All right, so once our momentum starts going down, if we have show exit signals, we are going to draw an arrow down with our long exit current bar. It is getting drawn at the high of the current bar plus tick size. We're going to make this a red arrow to signify it is a long exit. Now, just to ensure we have an exit point from our long entry, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. And I'm going to add a signal once exit is equals to false. Whenever we first make that initial signal, I want to make sure our exit is currently turned off. So this will allow it to start looking for that exit point anytime we have an entry. It just makes it so we have a start. So once we have that, I'm going to do the same thing, but for the short side. And I'm just going to copy the long code just to save a little bit of time. So signal once entry, that is true. Signal once exit is false. That is a correct statement. The momentum is going up because now we are in a short position. So once the momentum starts going up, that is going to be our exit point. To exit short instead of +2 is going to be a -2. Signal once exit, that's okay. And our draw arrow, this one we are going to draw an arrow up. I'm going to make a hot pink to signify a short exit. So let's just hit compile, make sure everything's working properly, and hit F5 to refresh your Ninja script. And we need to enable it. So show long exit. Oh, let's change that. Let me just update the show exit signal. All right, so that seems to be updated. Let's click on that. So we have our parameters, we have the predator signals. Everything seems to be okay. The momentum seems to be out of order. Let's change that in just a minute. I don't want to take up too much time, but let's make sure our signals are working properly. So let's start off with this long signal. We have gray dots. As soon as the Bollinger breaks out, we get a orange dot at the bottom. We have a builder signal of +1. That is our long entry. and we get a green entry arrow that can be used with the predator. So we keep moving on, and once the momentum starts going down, we get a red arrow. Again, we can use that as an exit signal with the predator. We have a builder signal of +2, so we can create an exit condition on strategy builder once the momentum starts going down. Then we turn gray once the Bollinger Bands are back inside the Keltner channel. We get a short signal when the bands break out of the channel, and a builder signal of -1 that signifies our short entry condition. And we also have a Dodger blue arrow. Again, we can use this to enter with the predator. We keep going. As soon as the momentum starts going up, we get a hot pink arrow for the predator, builder signal of -2. So everything seems to be in working order. As we keep going, all the arrows, everything seems to be okay. All right, for the last part, we just cleaned up the parameters a little bit, made sure everything's where it's supposed to be. We have our Bollinger, our Keltner, our momentum, and all of our colors. But anyways, I hope you guys found this video useful. As always, guys, take care, enjoy.